After nearly 3 decades covering the Buffalo Bills, this guy knows what he's talking about. Welcome to Sal Speak, the place to be for hard-hitting analysis from Sal Maiorana of the Democrat and Chronicle.
Hello everyone and welcome to the final 2017 version of the Sal Speak Facebook live show / podcast. I am Sal Maiorana and welcome into the studio here at democratandchronicle.com. We're going to wrap up what was, I think, a pretty satisfying season for the Buffalo Bills. You know, I know it's disappointing that they went to Jacksonville and lost to a team that they really should have beaten. Jacksonville, I thought, was no better than the Bills. They had one touchdown drive, and that was all it took to win the game. But all in all, I know it's disappointing that the Bills are not playing the Patriots Saturday night in Foxborough, but the fact that this team got to the playoffs and finally brought an end to the 17-year playoff drought makes this a season that I consider a successful one. Had they missed the playoffs, not gotten that miracle in that Baltimore-Cincinnati game, yeah, that would have been a reason, I think, for Bills fans to be disappointed because this team was right there with the opportunity, and it was just good that it all worked out for the Bills. We can finally put that thing to bed, and this franchise can move forward. And, you know, there's a lot of things that they have to do in the offseason. We're going to spend today talking about what happened, first of all, last week, and then in general, how this season went. And then I'm going to project forward a bit to the offseason and what the Bills have to do. I welcome you on Facebook. Send your questions. I'll try to get to as many as I can during this 25 minutes that we have together today. So let's start with what happened last week. I know it's been covered already, but my quick take on it was the Bills' offense was terrible. That was the reason they lost the game. I thought the Bills' defense played well. It helped that they played against Blake Bortles, who was absolutely horrendous in this game. It's almost embarrassing that the Bills lost a game to a team quarterbacked by Blake Bortles, given the fact that he threw for 87 yards and rushed for more, 88 yards. But it goes back to the Bills' offense. They just did not play well. They had one drive into the red zone. We all know how terribly that turned out, thanks to some really poor decision-making, first by the coaching staff and then by Tyrod Taylor on that run-pass option where he threw the ball to Benjamin and they got the pass interference. It short-circuited what should have been a touchdown. And then they never crossed. They got to the 48-yard line of Jacksonville 3 other times in the game. That was their deepest penetration all day outside of the one drive to the one. Unbelievable. I can't recall a game where a team's offense never got past the 48-yard line of the opposing team just once all day. It just shows you the level of ineptitude we saw from the Bills last week. Tyrod Taylor had a lot to do with that. It was one of his worst games of his Bills career. It was the worst completion percentage game he's had as a Bill. It was his 3rd worst passer rating that he's had as a Bills quarterback. So just not a good performance by him. Without LaShawn McCoy, who played on a painfully sore sprained ankle, the Bills would have had no offense in this game. So again, it comes to an end. I know a lot of fans that were down there in Jacksonville were disappointed walking out of the stadium because they realized this was a game the Bills probably should have won. They didn't. I'm going to give the Bills a pass, as I said at the top of the show. Getting that drought off their backs, to me, was what this whole season was about. I thought they were a 5 or 6 win team at the start of the year, especially after they traded guys like Ronald Darby and Sammy Watkins, then Marcel Darius in the middle of the season. They looked like a 5 or 6 win team in terms of talent. They got 9 wins out of these guys and broke the drought. So again, successful season all the way around. Now, as far as the season goes, we all know what the problems were here. I thought Sean McDermott in his first year, defensive head coach, came in and did a decent job with this defense. They overhauled the entire secondary, and they got tremendous performances, really, out of all 4 of the starters. Trey White, I think he's going to be a long-time Pro Bowler for years to come here in Buffalo, assuming they can keep him. Kid played tremendous. First-round pick. They got everything they possibly could get out of him. And then E.J. Gaines coming over when he was healthy, which wasn't all the time. He also was solid at corner. And they brought in the 2 safeties, Poyer and Hyde, free agent guys. We all knew Hyde is a good player. He played for Green Bay, playoff teams. He was a contributor. Nobody knew a thing about Jordan Poyer Turns out that kid came in, had a great season, one of the best seasons we've seen a Bills safety have. So he got the secondary together. They survived with, I think, a pretty average linebacker crew. And the defensive line, didn't have Shaq Lawson for half the year. They got rid of Darius. They got all they could out of Kyle Williams. Jerry Hughes played well. So all in all, I thought the defense took some positive steps forward. The problem is, as I'm going to get to in a minute here, going forward, they've got some big decisions to make, and it's going to be tough, I think, unless they really make some good choices to get the same level of play. You would hope it's going to be better. The rankings weren't great. They actually played better than their rankings indicate, but there's some big change that's going to be coming on the defense. Offensively, look, Tyrod Taylor's been here 3 years. Nothing has changed since 2015. He's basically the same quarterback he was the day he walked in. Dynamic athlete, can turn bad plays with his legs into good plays. He saves, several third down conversions because he can scramble and get out of those sacks, but he's just not a good thrower of the football. He has trouble with his ball placement. He has trouble reading the full field. He doesn't get rid of the ball quick enough. These are all things we've talked about for 3 years with Tyrod Taylor, and it was frustrating, especially in this last game, because there were plays to make, and he simply did not make them. The play on the run-pass option to Benjamin that ended up in the interference, he was given the option there, if it looks good to throw. Well, I don't know what would look good when you're going against Jalen Ramsey, a Pro Bowl cornerback. Kelvin Benjamin, who is 6'5", is playing on a bad knee. Tyrod is not accurate. None of those things were favorable to throwing the ball in that situation. The Bills could have run it in there. They had 4 plays to get 1 yard. Why they didn't run it, but here we go. This is the decisions that Tyrod made. It just wasn't sharp, and it was a big part of the reason why they lost this game and why there's been several games throughout his 3 years here where the Bills could not win. He just wasn't able to sustain a consistent passing game, and this is where the Bills have got to move on and be better at that position. I thought they ran the ball pretty good in this game against Jacksonville. It just wasn't enough. Even with McCoy playing on that bad ankle and doing a great job, there just wasn't enough going on in the passing game to sustain any consistency on offense, and the result was 3 points, the fewest points the Bills have ever scored in a playoff game. So we move on from a 9-7 season. They make the wild card. It was, like I said, a success from that point. As the Bills go into 2018, we had a press conference with Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott on Tuesday. Many things were covered, and of course, they're not going to give us the blueprint for what they're going to do, especially at offensive coordinator and quarterback. But my sense is that they're going to look to replace Rick Dennison as the coordinator. There are a few guys that are available right now in the coaching market that have ties to Sean McDermott. It would make a lot of sense for McDermott to make the move, especially given the fact that they're probably going to draft a quarterback in the first round. I think what the Bills have to do, they've got to bring a coordinator in here who not only is a good play caller, but is almost a quarterback whisperer. They've got to have a guy that can really work with a young quarterback. We saw that in Los Angeles this year. Jared Goff had a horrible rookie season in 2016. They changed coaches. Sean McVay goes in there, a noted offensive mind, and he really took over the coaching of the quarterback. Even as the head coach, he was the guy that was doing the primary job coaching Goff, and Goff had a terrific second season, quieted a lot of doubters, and I think that's what Buffalo has to do. Buffalo's got to get a guy that can really work well with a quarterback. I don't think that coach is currently on the staff. In terms of Tyrod, I think they move on. They owe him a $6 million bonus on March, whatever that date is, in mid-March, the first day of the league calendar. I don't think he's going to get that. It was very interesting in the press conference, and then the next day, Brandon Beane was on radio, and he delivered a quote that told me exactly what the Bills are going to do. He was asked if he had seen in person the quarterbacks in this college draft coming up, and his reply was he saw all the ones that matter. And what he meant by that was all the guys that are eligible or projected, I should say, to be first-round picks. He's seen those guys. He's not worrying about the guys later on. That tells me the Bills are going to make a move in the first round. I doubt they can get the guy they want staying at 21 and 22, which are currently the 2 first-round picks they have. It might take a package to move up to get something done, but I think the Bills are going to move in that direction. Now, a lot of people have asked me, should the Bills bring in a veteran to be the bridge guy and not have that rookie play in his first year? And I really believe that would be a good idea. We keep hearing the name of Alex Smith, and I know a lot of people don't like Alex Smith for many different reasons, but I will tell you that Alex Smith is a vast upgrade over Tyrod Taylor. Alex Smith threw for 4,000 yards this season. He was an MVP candidate in the first half of the year, and then they started having some problems. They went into that mysterious slump. By the way, the Bills caught them at just the right time, and they beat the Chiefs while that was going on. And then Smith came out of it at the end of the year. I think he could come in and really be a good option for the Bills next season, and then you could let whoever that rookie quarterback is take a seat on the bench, just like Kansas City did this year. They let Patrick Mahomes sit until the final game. They put him in there because the playoffs had already been figured out, and they had nowhere to go. That's, I think, a great plan if the Bills can pull that off. If it's not Alex Smith, there's going to be other veteran guys that could come in here and do that same job, be the bridge quarterback to the rookie quarterback. Remember, this team did make the playoffs this year. If they make the proper moves to upgrade this roster, they could probably contend next year for a wild card berth with a decent, productive veteran quarterback. I find it very tough to believe, though, that even if they do make improvements to the roster, that a rookie quarterback is going to come in and be able to do the same thing. It's very possible the Bills could take a step back next season and not make the playoffs if they go with a rookie. Whereas, like I said, the other way, you groom that rookie for 2019 and have a bridge guy. That's a very plausible situation that I think the Bills will consider. Again, I don't have the answers right now. In the second week of January, we don't know it all. We'll start finding out things as they go to the scouting combine and we start talking about what their plan, what their beliefs are in these quarterbacks. But until then, it's all speculation at this point. I just know that I'm pretty sure, unlike last season when I was wrong saying that Tyrod Taylor was done in Buffalo, I think he is going to be done this season. All right, I'm going to go to the Facebook here and see if we have any questions lined up, and we do. All right, Bill Smart wants to know, quarterback, are we going for a veteran and rookie? Like I said, that to me is a good plan. I think they're going to have to bring a veteran guy in. Look, Nathan Peterman, who knows what will happen down the road. He was just a rookie, and he was put into some tough situations this year. That game in L.A. against the Chargers, I thought, I understood why Sean McDermott did it because, I think he came to the conclusion that Tyrod is not their guy. So he was hoping that Peterman could give him a spark. It blew up in his face. The kid played awful, but that was a tough situation, I thought, for Peterman to go in. And then his next chance to start is in the Snow Bowl against Indy, and we really couldn't make any judgment off of that game. He did throw a touchdown pass, which was nice, but we really had a tough time getting a full read on what Peterman is and can be. But in the brief snippets that we saw, I just think he's a fifth-round guy. I think he's going to be a career-long backup in the NFL, so I think he'll be on the roster next year. And yes, I think they bring a new veteran guy in to replace Taylor, and they draft someone. That would to me would be the most logical thing we could look forward to. All right, Chuck Jagger, Mick Jagger's brother? No, probably not. He says, should we look for a new offensive coordinator? Look, I didn't like the Rick Dennison hire in the first place. He was a Gary Kubiak guy, both in Denver and Houston, and I just didn't think that offense was a great fit for what the Bills do. He comes right in, and after the Bills leading the league in rushing 2 years in a row, he goes and changes the whole blocking scheme, and that caused problems early in the year. The Bills had a tough time running the ball, if you recall, early in the season. It got better as the offensive line got more in tune with what they were looking for up front blocking, but I didn't see a reason to change that. And again, he got nothing out of Tyrod Taylor. Now, you could say that, yeah, part of that is on Tyrod. He is who he is. Nothing's changed. The receivers were horrible this season. But to me, a good offensive coordinator overcomes some of those obstacles and makes things work. And this team just did not make many things work on offense. So, to me, that screams, let's try something new. There are guys out there. Mike Shula just got fired in Carolina. He worked with Sean McDermott for, I think, 4 years, maybe 5 years together down there, so there's a connection. Rod Chudzinski is the OC in Indianapolis. Their coach has been fired, so Chudzinski probably won't have a job here in a couple weeks. They worked together, him and McDermott, in Carolina for a couple years. So there are guys on the market right now. Mike McCoy, who was Buffalo's McDermott's first choice last year, but he went to Denver instead. He got fired midseason. He's available. So there are guys that McDermott can turn to that he probably has more of a connection with than he had with Dennison. And I do expect that there's going to be a move made sometime here in the near future, because we talked about it Tuesday at the press conference. He's got to start getting going here, because there are staffs, coaches have been fired around the league, and now these coaches are starting to fill their staffs. So it's kind of first come, first serve. If he's going to make a move, I got to believe it's going to happen here pretty soon. So that's what I think the Bills are going to do at offensive coordinator. Tom Marshall, I just talked about it, Tom, offensive coordinator prospects, and then the quarterback prospects. We know who they are. The first-round guys, Darnell, Rosen, Josh Allen, and Baker Mayfield are the guys that have been projected to be first-round picks. I don't know. It looks like Rosen, Darnell are going to go 1-2 in some order. Again, this is way too early to be thinking about that, because we haven't seen combine stuff yet. Their pro days, all the interviews that go on. It's still very early in the process, but that looks to be the consensus. To go up and get one of those two guys at 1 and 2 will cost a fortune. First of all, Cleveland's not giving up the first pick. They're going to pick one of the quarterbacks. And then number 2, I think, is the Giants right now. They may be looking for a quarterback too. In fact, they probably are. So I think it's going to be very difficult for the Bills to get either of those picks, no matter what they offer, because both teams need a quarterback. Then a little bit further down the road, there are some possibilities. You got to just wonder, though, are Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield worth going up that far in the top 5? For instance, Cleveland has the number 4 pick also. Would they want to deal that pick, get a bunch more picks in their arsenal, and give Buffalo number 4? Maybe, but is Baker Mayfield really going to be the 4th overall pick in the draft, or is Josh Allen? I don't know. And again, it's way too early. I haven't looked close enough at these guys. I don't have many opinions on what the Bills will be looking at quarterback, but I just know the price will be awfully high. So it's going to be a fascinating next 3 months leading to the draft. That I can tell you, because when you're looking for a quarterback, it makes the draft so much more interesting than if you're just looking for the best player available, which often has been the case with the Bills. Okay, Steve Dranzuski says Byrod, meaning Tyrod. I would have to agree. I think that's what's going to happen. Let's see. Rick Chicata says the season is over. Enough Bills. The playoffs are what you shills should be covering. Well, I cover the Bills, Rick, so I'm not covering the playoffs like you. I'll be watching the playoffs on TV, and I'm sure I'll have some opinions, but I just won't be covering them for the paper. So hope you're not disappointed by that. Mark Powers says the Bills Mafia is a ridiculous name, by the way. No, I think it's actually a pretty cool name. And I think largely Bills Mafia has been tremendous. It's a great, great group of people. Unfortunately, there's a small segment of that great group of people that are complete morons and act like complete idiots. And we saw that, well, I saw it at least, down in Jacksonville this weekend. Not a good look for Bills fans. And again, it's a shame. The guy who founded Bills Mafia went on Twitter and basically apologized, saying this is a small group of people that kind of ruin a really good thing and a good reputation. Bills fans became very well known this past week with all that Andy Dalton Foundation, all the donations. It shows just how great Bills fans are. But again, Bills Mafia has a few members that kind of ruin it for everybody else. I wish it would stop. It's probably not going to. The breaking of tables and drinking yourself into a stupor. And then Bill Cowher going on national TV and breaking a table, all for fun, of course. That only perpetuates the behavior. So that wasn't a great thing for Bills fans either. So you could call me an old fart and I'm a curmudgeon, but it is true. I wish these Bills fans would stop doing stuff like that, because it becomes a nationwide embarrassment. And Bills Mafia, a great group of people that kind of gets brought down a little bit by the behavior of a very few. So anyways, I like the Bills Mafia name. I think it's great. All right, Rob GM Brown says trade Tyrod Taylor and both first rounders to the Browns for the top draft pick. No, the Browns are not going to part with that pick. They're going to get their own guy, whether it's Darnold or Rosen. They don't want to give up on that. They've already passed on Carson Wentz a couple years ago with the number 2 pick, and they're paying for that dearly. They were 0-16 this season. So they're picking a quarterback. There's no way they're going to take a trade for that first pick. Their 4th pick, very possible. They could definitely trade that away and get a whole boatload more of picks, which they need because they've got a million holes, way more than the Bills do. That would be a logical play for the Browns. But again, I'm not there. I'm not embedded with that organization, so I really couldn't tell you what their plan's going to be. Rob also wants to know, and still go after Alex Smith or Cousins in free agency. Yeah, I like the Smith move. You're going to have to trade for him unless he gets cut by the Chiefs. I don't think that'll happen, though. I think Andy Reid will try to get an asset back for Alex Smith. So it'll cost you something, and you're going to have to take on his salary, which is pretty much a wash with Tyrod, so that's not really a big issue salary cap-wise. As far as Cousins, though, I'm not on board with that. Cousins is going to cost a fortune, probably $25 million or more per season, and I think he's a good NFL quarterback, but I don't think the value for Kirk Cousins is there for the Bills right now. If the Bills were a team, say they were a 10, 11 win team this year that was going to lose its quarterback in free agency or whatever the situation would be, they're a team that was ready to contend for a championship next year, maybe you do go get Cousins because Cousins might be the final link. But I don't think the Bills are there quite yet, and I think spending that kind of money on Kirk Cousins, who is not, as far as I'm concerned, elite, I think that would be a mistake. So I think the Bills should definitely go with a bridge guy and draft your quarterback of the future. Just hope you get the right one. Okay, let's see. Michael Robert says, if we scoop up Alex Smith before Arizona does, would it be a good fit then, and we can cut Tyrod? Yeah, Alex Smith is going to be a popular guy this offseason. There are several teams that would bring him in. The Browns are actually one of those teams. I mean, it would make sense for the Browns to get Alex Smith somehow, some way, and let him play next year while their quarterback gets ready. I'm all in favor, no matter what team it is, of letting a rookie quarterback sit and learn for his first year. If you've got a logical guy who can go in there and play, I think it's a good move for a lot of teams. Denver's a spot Alex Smith could go to. Arizona, for sure, now that Carson Palmer has retired. There's a few other teams that I can't think of off the top of my head, but he'll be a popular guy. Andy Reid's going to have plenty of suitors. I think most people know that the Chiefs are going to move on to Mahomes, and Smith will be available. So, yeah, the Bills are probably going to have to stand in line if they want to get Smith. The good thing is Andy Reid and McDermott have a long history together. They worked that Reggie Ragland trade. It's possible that could happen. Something to keep an eye on. All right. We are going to wrap it up because Ginny is telling me we have a show that's coming on here at 1 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap up with a few quick thoughts on the season. First of all, I want to thank everyone who has been here watching the show, listening to the podcast all year. It was a fun season for the Bills. Really enjoyed this season. I really like Sean McDermott. I like Brandon Beane. I think this team is finally in good hands. The best part about it, they came in together, essentially, and they're in lockstep. I think both of these guys, having worked together in Carolina, understand each other, understand what their shared vision is for this franchise moving forward, and I think that's a very good sign for the Bills. We don't have the staggered coach, GM that didn't work together. They were kind of forced marriaged together, like Rex Ryan and Doug Whaley, for instance. I think this is a good situation for the Bills. It's a very critical offseason. These guys have got to show that they can build this team moving forward. They've got huge decisions to make, both on the salary cap in terms of possibly letting go some veteran players and this draft. The quarterback, getting the right guy, is really going to steer the future of this team for the next few years. They've got to hit it. So I think these are the right guys to do it, and let's hope that they get it done. So as we wrap up, we're going to have the people that are watching on Facebook can watch a great video that Jamie Germano, our crack Bills photographer, put together, sort of a season wrap-up of this very fun, interesting season. So everyone on Facebook, you can watch that as you go away. As for the podcast, folks, I'll be coming back periodically when there's Bills. I'll put out a podcast, probably do a Facebook Live show when things happen. For instance, maybe Rick Dennison gets fired the next few days, and we'll come out and talk about that. But until then, if I don't talk to you soon, have a great weekend. Enjoy the playoffs. Do it with a heavy heart that the Bills aren't playing this weekend. But again, remember, this Bills season was a pretty fun one. Have a great day, everybody, and take care.